All right, so next what we're going to do is like we're going to look into the first object creation, the geometry, which is going to be points. Points are actually the first building blocks within Civil 3D through which you can actually add more things on top of it. So to create points, first we need to understand what are the different types of points that we can create. Whether we can create actually two types of points. One is a simple CAD point, which is like a standard point that you can create it. Another one is called COGO, which is like a coordinate geometry. So what is a COGO? So COGO is like same as an AutoCAD point, but it just bundled up with some extras on top of it. So let's first go and create some points. So I'm gonna say points, or you can say point PT, and you can choose a point style. And so you can say it can be a plus, it can be a circle, whatever the style that you wanted. So that will be set as the default point style. So we set the point style, and then we're going to say point. I'm going to click on, and then I'm going to create a point. So now if I select this particular point and then right click and go to properties, let me get the properties window. Okay, so if you see, this is basically the information about that particular object. Now if you see, it can give you the layer, which you can change it, the color coming from the layer, and you can change the layer and the line type and all of these properties which is associated with the point. And then apart from that, when it comes to geometry, it has got the X value, Y value and Z value. So that's basically determines where the location of the point. So this is all the stuff which is available for the standard AutoCAD point. So now let me create a Civil 3D point. For that, actually, I'm going to right click on points here. We go to the tool space. If you don't have the tool space, you have to click on this big button here called tool space. And then you see these 4 tabs here. Prospector is where you actually create and manage objects within your Civil 3D drawing. And then you see all these 4 buttons here. They basically control these tabs. I can turn on and off the different buttons here. Okay. So this is settings and prospector, settings, toolbox and survey. Okay. You can also move these ones up and down and things like that. So now we go to the prospector. I'm going to right click on points, select it, right click, and then click on create. So it's going to give you a flyout toolbar. This is called flyout toolbar. One of the things is like when you work with any program such as Civil 3D or any of the programs, generally I use the exact terminologies for all the user element components and stuff, because sometimes you might have an issue where the flyout toolbar is not visible or it's not working, it's grayed out. So now if you want to ask a question to someone in Autodesk forum, if you give them the exact terminology of what it is, it's a flyout toolbar, and this is a dialog box, and this is a dock panel, this is called a dock panel, and this is a ribbon interface, this is a panel, this is a drop down tool. If you give them the exact name for these objects, then people understand what the issue is. Okay, so now we go to create points. Now if you see from here until here, all of these things are mostly used by surveyors to create all these COGO points, because what happens is, if you look at the flow, the way Civil 3D works with an entire team of engineers is basically, so I'm just gonna, okay, so now what happens is there is a survey team. So the survey team, what they do is they'll go to the field and they do all the sort of survey works. So they put the total station, they put all the, they do all the survey works, and then they'll give something as a survey file, which will be like a field book file or CSV or a point file or any of those formats. So it could be XLS or anything like that. So they'll give the data in that format, and now that format will actually go to call something called, within Civil 3D you can directly import it or use the survey database. Survey database, or this is basically option 1, and option 2 is like you can import it. So import points. So now at this point, pretty much the survey data is inside. So now once this is done, the surveyor basically assembles the data. So assembling data. So once this portion is done, pretty much the surveying work is all done. So the surveyor basically done with this stuff. Now from this point onwards, the civil guy comes in. So he takes the data from here and then he'll start creating terrain out of it. And then he will start adding objects on top of it, such as alignment, profile, and then grading, and all of these things will go on top of the surface that the civil engineer creates. So this is basically the workflow. So now when you're here, when you're in the flyer toolbar, when you're creating a point, so from here to here, it is all for surveyors. If you look at this one, you can see different ways of creating a point. I can choose manual, click, and then I can go to any location. I can click, and then you may not see much because in the command line it is giving you instructions. Okay, do you want to give a point description? I'm going to say this is going to be natural surface point. This is a natural surface point. And then point elevation. Do you want to give a specific elevation? Say, let's say I'm going to give 20. That's a Z value. And now please specify the location of the new point. So now that is basically done. If you press enter, so that point, let's do it again. So we're going to be here. So I'm just going to click, and then I'm going to type in, I think the point is already here. Yeah, it's here. It's just, it's too tiny. So what I would do is, you can see it is here. So they both are in different scales. So that's a reason. So I'm just going to get rid of this one and then do a zoom extent, and you'll see the points. So now if you see civil 3D point I've selected, now you can see there is more to what it was before with the AutoCAD point. Now there is more options, such as, let's say there is a point number and the point description which I've entered. That's the data that is already there associated with the object. And the style, I can change the style from, I don't want to look like this, I wanted to make it look a little different. Okay, I want the point label. The point label, there is no description, there is no data on it. So let me add elevation and description. So now you see it shows the description as well as the elevation value. Now I can choose, let's say the point can be locked, it cannot be locked. I can add a show a tooltip. You can see I can add more information related to the point. Now you see easting, northing, and point elevation, and that's basically different compared to what we had before, X, Y, and Z. So now this is what the difference that we get from AutoCAD to Civil 3D point. Later down the track, we will also see how to actually convert a Civil 3D point to an AutoCAD point, an AutoCAD point to a Civil 3D point as well. All right, so now if you see all these tools here, this is same as this one, just different methods of creating those points. Same with all of these ones, except the last one. So what does the last one does is basically import points. So this is where civil engineers comes in. So most of the time, people who are using Civil 3D are civil engineers. So now let me get rid of this one. Now I click on import points. Now you see it gives me a dialog box. I can go and choose. Okay, I'll give you these sample files. You can play around with these ones. I'm going to choose a sample file which says PENZD NS points. This is one of the things, guys. Whenever you actually get data from surveyors, make sure that you name the files properly, which I will actually talk about a little later. Click OK. So now that is imported, and you can see whatever the format of the file is what I have to choose. So the format is going to be PENZD, delimited, and you can see the preview of it. Everything goes into the right columns and stuff. Now I can put it into a point group. We will see point group in the next lesson, and then click OK. Now middle mouse button twice. Now you see all the points on the screen. Okay, so that is all Civil 3D point. And you can also select all of these things and right click and go to object viewer, and then that gives you the object viewer. And in object viewer you can quickly rotate and see these things. Okay, so now in the panorama view you can actually see whichever you selected. It shows you data that's underneath, and so you can see it up here. So you can go and change those values. Just double click and you can change those values. You can change the NS to natural surface and all those things that within those points you can easily edit it like an Excel sheet. Alright, so that's basically about the fundamentals of points. We will go deeper into understanding a bit more of points and point groups in the next one. Thank you.